Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the First Line. My name is Massimo Marchiano, and with me today are Michael Zingroni and Taylor Snyder. How are we doing today, gentlemen?
Beautiful. It's great. Life's going great. I'm ready to get the show on the road.
Had a pretty hectic week, Mass. Gordon Hayward could be done for the season. The Capitals are very average. Temple football's god-awful. The Red Sox are out. But then again, I am alive, and we're on the First Line, my favorite part of the week. It's great to be with you guys. Let's get the show rolling today.
All right, sounds good. Let's just run right into it. We're going to talk NFL. Big news just happened. The NFL draft, instead of happening in Philadelphia after Draft Town, Philadelphia got a lot of reception, got a lot of praise. It was broke record attendance. But now it's going to be in Dallas. It's going to be in Texas. It's going to be at the multi-billion-dollar Cowboy Stadium in Arlington.
It's going to be Jerry World.
It's going to be a Jerry World. Taylor has some very, very frustrated opinions with it. A lot of Philadelphia fans, a lot of Philadelphia people are very upset with the idea. So Taylor, why don't you go ahead and start with your thoughts on the matter?
Well, it was funny, Mass. I was sitting there in one of my last classes today, and the thought had actually rang to me about a week ago because me and Mike were at the draft last year. Very successful, very lively atmosphere. Probably the single greatest sporting experience of my life. I would go that far to say so. And we were very aware that the NFL made it clear they wanted to test the market. Obviously, it's not at Radio City Music Hall anymore. It was at Chicago a few years back. They had it in Philly this past year. I'm aware of that. I'm aware that they were going to test that out, maybe, see where they could put it. What I was not aware of was the fact that Dallas, Texas was actually in the running for this. Listen. It's one thing if you want to move it to Los Angeles. I get it. It's LA, the big markets out there, the entertainment, even San Francisco or a place like Atlanta that's hosted in Olympic Games, Olympic Park in Atlanta. But Dallas, Texas beats out Philadelphia. I've lived in Philadelphia for a year and a half now. I would like to say Boston sports fans are the best out there. They are not. Philadelphia is the best sports town in America, hands down, period. Exclamation point, actually. Screw the period. Exclamation point. And the fact that it's going to be in Dallas this year, it's embarrassing to me. I feel like Philly just got little brother. They weren't even really considered. They weren't even in the top 4 for considered a bid to get this spot in the draft. And to see it's in Dallas, to see that Jerry Jones has just won again, right at his fingertips, obviously with all the buzz going around with Ezekiel Elliott, with the Cowboys this season. Obviously, the Eagles are playing real well. The vibe is definitely in Philadelphia. It was in Philadelphia when we were at the draft. And I personally, if you want my honest, humble opinion, I just think Roger Goodell's too scared to show his face in Philadelphia anymore.
I have the answer for you. It's money.
Yeah.
Guess who owns the Cowboys? Jerry Jones. So was it really a question? Do you think Philadelphia would have got something 2 years in a row?
Well, do you
truly believe that?
We can't have nice
would
things.
Would Philadelphia really get two?
Chicago had it for the 2015 and 2016 draft, and it worked for them. Especially the second year, they made a lot more money. So thoughts were that Philadelphia was going to have it a second year so that they can make more money. But like you said, with Chicago and Philadelphia making so much recently, someone like Jerry Jones is obviously going to snag the opportunity.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just a beautiful venue. AT&T Stadium down there, all the millions and billions of dollars invested in everything in that area. It's just going to be a festival, and it's going to be decked out. And they're going to try to beat Philly, but I have a one simple answer. They're really not. Yeah. They're not going to beat Philly.
And I mean, it's funny, actually. I actually read an article this morning. It was on, I think it was on CBS, and one of the reporters said that the bar was raised so high in Philly that they weren't really sure if the draft would ever be moved. They thought Philadelphia, maybe even switching back and forth every 2 or 3 years between Philadelphia and New York City, the two very big, market towns for sports. And I can see where, and listen, I'm not trying to totally disrespect Dallas. Obviously, there is a lot of surrounding area around AT&T Stadium in Arlington. I've been to it before. There's a lot of complex area to work with. Cowboy Stadium is a very nice stadium. Obviously, the scoreboard, everything else. What I just don't understand is why Philadelphia was not able to compete with this. And I understand money really talks in this industry, but overall, it's very, very hurtful to me for someone who is very passionate, very defensive about Philadelphia in general, about having the draft here. I was very excited last year, obviously going to it, and it stinks that it has to move like this, and I understand why it has to move, but overall, I just think the NFL really didn't give Philadelphia a chance to maybe put in their 2 cents, one would say.
Oh, it will be back. It'll definitely come back.
And I get what you're saying. Like I get what you're saying that like it hurts, but at the end of the day, football is a business thing. It's a dollars thing. It's just exactly like, for example, the Chargers moving to LA or the Rams moving to LA or your favorite player getting traded to another team. It's just like the NFL at the end of the day, like you can say they care about their fans, and not to say that they don't, like that there's this overall like something like that, but let's be honest, they don't care about the individual fan. This is the NFL. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. They're gonna look where the money's at. And it's the way it is. It's been like that ever since the beginning, and I guess it's been a little more money greedy in recent years. But to say that it hasn't the entire time, no, that's just ridiculous. And
I just don't understand the setup they had in Philly. As Taylor mentioned, me and him were both there.
It was a nice setup.
It was just huge. It was where they hold a annual Made in America concert. It was just the area is huge.
It was the Rocky Steps.
Exactly. They hold it there. They have that whole area. It's just gigantic. I mean, I understand like AT&T Stadium's big and like the area around it's big, but I don't think you can replicate that atmosphere. Just walking on the Ben Franklin Parkway and there's something here, there's something there. Then you
could add that to the whole argument of why are the Cowboys America's team when you could say the Eagles are, because it's the bald eagle, it's the symbol of the country. It's
Philadelphia's the first capital.
Philadelphia.
But you can make that argument for every city in some way, shape, or form.
You could say the Patriots could be America's team. So there's like a whole bunch of reasons. But yeah, no, I mean it's just like it's just like crazy. I mean it is sad that it has to go. As an Eagles fan, I'm upset.
It happens.
And I'm not gonna act like Philadelphia did everything, because at the end of the day, Philadelphia was kind of in control of their pitch to the topic, because only 14 representatives were in attendance at the 2017 NFL Draft in Philadelphia. 20 made a pitch for Dallas. So it's not like this was just kind of let's just throw it down to Dallas at Jerry World with Jerry Jones where all the money is. Dallas made a push for this, and Roger Goodell did state earlier today that the whole point of moving it down to Dallas is to test the market, to keep evolving, to really utilize that space and evolve this, because this is no longer just the draft. This is an event. I mean, there were 250,000 people in attendance at the draft in Philadelphia this past year. There were 200,000 at Radio City Music Hall in New York. There were 230,000 in Chicago. And overall, I see this progression, and I really, really hope for, bless his heart, Roger Goodell. I know he has a hard job to do, but maybe just actually get something done for once and continue to evolve this. And I really, really hope, Mr. Goodell, that is your intention.
Speaking of progression, Mike, just in case, you got any last thoughts on the Dallas Stadium?
You know what's hilarious? I'm reading this article right now, how Green Bay and Kansas City were in consideration to get the draft. That would have been fun.
Honestly, I would have rather have had it in Green Bay.
If it was in Green Bay, how great that would have been.
Because, listen, Green Bay's no Dallas, Chicago, New York City, Philadelphia, but Green Bay has the passion.
Green Bay is a football town.
And the historical element in order to carry this event.
Lambeau Field, can't beat that.
To carry this event into what it should be a spectacular. It should be something that everyone that just comes from around the U.S., football fans, not a lot of people can say, and I couldn't have said this till last year, that I've been to an NFL draft in person. I've seen it. I've seen Goodell come out. I've heard him get booed. I've seen
He's not gonna
all
get
these
booed.
people.
He's gonna get. Do you think he'll get booed in Dallas like
he will? He'll get booed in Dallas, but significantly less.
Not as much as Philly.
Honestly, though, I think there's one sole reason he will get booed in Dallas, and it has everything to do with Ezekiel Elliott.
Wait, why not?
Everything to do with Ezekiel Elliott, and I think that is the one sole reason.
Speaking of Ezekiel Elliott, let's make a little smooth transition to that boy. So the NFL just made he is now eligible to play the rest of the games for now. It's a very confusing process. At this point, it does look like Ezekiel Elliott will be able to continue to play for now, unless, the lawyers up at, Lawyer-Stein and Steinberg decide that, office. Guys, we can suspend him for 4 games now and 3 games. No, screw all that.
Yeah. Well,
all we know is
it's in his second go around of getting reviewed again in a court.
Ezekiel Elliott's not only in the move to talk, because first of all he's not only in the move to run. Statistically this year, I got to be honest, Ezekiel Elliott's not the same this season. Mike, it seems like you got yourself a little bit of a sheet you've prepped up there on Ezekiel. You want to elaborate on that for us, buddy?
Well, the big thing, he only has 2 touchdowns through 5 games. Last year he was averaging a touchdown a game. And that's the biggest thing. If you can score touchdowns, it doesn't really matter your yardage. If you can score touchdowns,
Blount
get
got
points.
18.
Exactly. If you can score points, get your team on the scoreboard, you're invaluable. As long as you can do that. Well, now he only has 2 touchdowns per game, and he's not averaging that 100-yard pace he was last year.
3.7 yards per carry. Ezekiel Elliott is definitely not as explosive, and people could credit that to the offensive line, also losing Ronald Leary and was it Doug Freeze, I think, as well?
Yes, Doug Free retired.
Yeah, so
It's just everything is just trending down for the Cowboys over the offseason. You can't lie.
So
the
would you
whole
guys-
Ezekiel Elliott thing, everything was just trending downwards.
is it an overall Cowboys slump, or do you think it's just Elliott's production?
I think limited Elliott production overall on offense definitely plays a role. It has an effect. Dak Prescott this season has played well, has not been the same as he was. The defense is really what stands out this year in Dallas. I just feel like a lot of teams are really just plowing over him. And last year they had that offense to kind of cover up the dirty work. But, I mean, this year overall, when we really look at it in depth, this Cowboys team, obviously the record doesn't show. Last season, when you look at Dak Prescott's numbers this season, obviously 1,192 yards to 11 touchdowns. In his career, he has over 4,800. He has 34 touchdowns. So you can think about it like this. He's played 2 seasons in the NFL now. He was a rookie last season. This is his second season now. Total, he has 34. If you really look in depth at the numbers here, you see not only a decline in Dak Prescott, but you see a decline in the Cowboys' offensive efficiency. They're not playing as well. They lost a game to Denver. They lost a game versus very talented, I'll give it to them, an LA Rams team. Lost a game versus Green Bay. Played kind of subpar against the Giants early on in that game. Were able to pull it out, a 19-3 victory.
Yeah,
they won a game against
Little
Arizona.
do we know then the Giants were this bad.
Yeah, and honestly, one thing that I do notice a lot about Dak is interceptions this year. He had 2 versus Denver. He had 1 versus LA, 1 versus Green Bay. Had 0 last game. Was able to kind of cover that up a little bit. Yardage is not awful. Completion percentage is iffy, could be a little bit better. His highest completion percentage this season was 72 versus the Cardinals. So it's not really totally Dak. So then what I immediately look at now is receiving core, offensive line, and running back. Ezekiel Elliott's declined. So if you look at it all together, I really don't think it's an offense problem. It's more of a Zeke problem. Maybe the Cowboys aren't responding well to Zeke's limited production, but overall, I don't think Zeke has a total direct effect if you really look at the numbers here on the offense, because the Cowboys are still capable of putting up numbers with Beasley and Bryant obviously out at the wide. So to answer your question, Mass, no. I don't think it's really the reason the Cowboys aren't as good as they are this year, but it's playing a role, if that makes sense to you at all.
I think it's just big how they had 2 straight home games against playoff teams, and they lost both of them, and both of them were shootouts.
I think
that's what really intrigues me, because honestly, like, we know about this defense is awful, but it's really exposed. You play 2 playoff teams at home, and your defense gives up 35 points each day.
Something I think a lot of the things can be credited to. It's mainly just honestly the offensive line losing what they had. Not to say that Zeke isn't a bad running back, but Zeke obviously has not produced well. Like, he had to get 29 carries against the Packers to get over 100 yards and 4 yards per carry at that. Even then, like you said, Mike, his touchdown numbers have been low this year, and basically so have every other Cowboy. The Cowboys are just not really scoring that much this year, and it's against opponents that you honestly could. It's the Cardinals, the Rams, my bad, is the Giants, the Broncos, the Cardinals, Rams, and Packers. And, they are scoring, like, some points in these games, but at the end of the day, like, they're just not playing like this Cowboys offense that we had seen from, previous years. This isn't the 2014 Tony Romo-led offense. This isn't the 2016 Dak Prescott-led offense.
I remember at this point last year, this was right around the time where the Eagles had that hot start. And then the second half of the season was obviously a little bit of a different story. But there was one thing we did know about last year, and at least this is what I took away from this point last year. It was going to be the Cowboys and Eagles for this division. And even still this year, obviously the Giants, I've chalked them even after that win versus Denver. I've still chalked them out of the picture.
Yeah, they're obviously out.
And it's going to be the same thing this year. But like you said, Mike, it's just been so tiring. Obviously, the suspension was upheld, and then he was able to play, and then the appeal court came back and said, never mind.
It's a distraction.
It's a total distraction because obviously and it's funny actually, I think a lot of people don't really understand this to the fullest extent. When he was granted that temporary restraint, he was able to still be around the team, but he was not able to practice in full. So now you got a guy that is kind of suspended, but not really suspended, because when I wake up in the morning, it's like one day, oh, he's good to go. The next day, wait a minute, next day it's good to go. And he's remained firm, and I believe in a country where you are innocent until proven guilty. I don't know if he is guilty. He's obviously very defensive, wants to take this out. He has stated timelessly, it's very tiring, it's exhausting to me, but I have to stay focused on what I need to stay focused on. So I just think the distraction could be playing a role, because he's there, but there's all this extra juju around him.
I think the distraction plays a big role because Ezekiel Elliott walks into the locker room every day. His teammates obviously know what's going on. Everybody knows that this situation is going on. They know there's going to be one day he's not going to be able to get it to another court. One day he's just going to give up. And one day he is going to have to serve that 6-game suspension. Yeah. So it's just I just feel like the Cowboys, every time he comes in, they just know, okay, this could be our last day. Or this could be our last day. So it's sort of just like a funeral waiting to happen almost. And that's what it looks like to me. It's a funeral waiting to happen. They're just waiting for Zeke to lose, then everything can collapse. They're pressing until that happens. It's just something bad waiting to happen. Because as soon as he is finally definitely suspended, he is going to serve that 6 games. Wheels are gonna fall off.
And now,
I mean, because this whole entire process is happening, and like there's no end in sight. Like there's nothing that's gonna. It's all because there's no video. Because after the whole Ray Rice thing, the NFL wants a video. People want a video of it. But it's like at the end of the day, the evidence apparently is still there enough for Zeke to get suspended 6 games. There's no avoiding it. It's gonna be it could be the same exact situation as the Tom Brady one. Like he's not getting suspended 4 games this year. He's gonna get suspended 4 games next year. It's gonna happen.
It's a constant game that we're gonna get.
And so my point is with that is that you'd rather have Zeke suspended the first 6 games because you get used to what it's like to have a Cowboys offense just stripped a little bit of something. But then the last 10-game stretch, you have Zeke back. You have what you need to win games. You know what it's like to not play without him. Now you have him back. It's like sweet. Now we got our weapon.
Yeah. Like now they're playing too many games. Now they have to go out on Sundays, play a game. Then they got to worry about Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, not only that, their defense is awful too. Their defense is bad. Then pair that with what's going on. It's something bad waiting to happen. I agree. If he was suspended the first 6 games, then after this he's back in motion going, then everything's all well and good because you know what's going to happen. You have definite answers. That's all we're looking for is just answers.
So I think it's funny because one thing that people would say is a positive, but I don't really look at this as something that's very positive is the injunction. If he were to win the injunction, he would technically still be eligible to play the remainder of the season. However, there's still that possibility that he could be suspended next year. And I believe that this really creates a distraction because obviously he's been playing in these games and he's not been doing very well. And the NFL has put him on and off the suspended list, and he's currently on the suspended list. Tuesday, this all goes back to how this started, when he's allowed to be with the team on Tuesday, but he's not allowed to be with the team on Wednesday, Thursday, and then all of a sudden, oh wait, now you're allowed to be with the team on Friday. Oh yeah, by the way, we got to go catch a plane to Green Bay and go play in Green Bay this week. And he's had limited practice time. The team's confused. I think Dak has responded well to him being very limited, but there's come on.
Dak's not playing bad.
Let's not kid ourselves. Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott were 2 peas in a pod last season. I will go as far to say is if you don't have Ezekiel Elliott on that roster last year, I'm not saying Dallas doesn't win that division, but their record's not what it is. And Dallas isn't what it is. Obviously, they lost to Green Bay in the playoffs last year. Another Dallas Cowboys case of losing in the playoffs when they should have won a game. Familiar Washington Capitals.
Well, let's listen to this. And maybe I could be wrong here, but I'd rather agree with the latter. But let me know what you guys rather have. Would you rather have Ezekiel Elliott against the Giants, who are 1-5, the Broncos, who aren't as good, shadow from former selves, same with the Cardinals, then you're home against the Rams and the Packers, and then you play at San Francisco, who's 0-6 right now. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have Zeke? Or no, you have a bye week, the 6th week, but I'm guessing that
he'll still miss the 49ers game.
So what happens? So would you rather have that? Would you rather have in the last 6 games where you're playing against Los Angeles and Washington? You have basically 3 rivalry games: the Redskins, you're at the Giants, and you're at the Eagles. Then you play at Oakland, and you're home versus Seattle. Where would you rather have Zeke?
Hands
the
down,
first 6 games or the last 6?
Have him serve the first 6 because there's 2 games right there that immediately stand out to me. It's a 5-1 football team that plays right here in Philadelphia.
You would have him in the first 6?
You got to play.
I would actually rather have him in the last 6.
No, I'm saying I'd rather have him out.
Or have him out the fact.
Because you got to play Philadelphia 2 games. You got to play him at home, and then you got to play him out away. You play them away in Philadelphia in the last week of the season. And
that's
who knows?
That's going to be a huge game. That's obviously going to be a huge game.
The Eagles are 5-1 now, but this is the NFL. Anything could happen. That game could decide the NFC East. You don't know.
I think here's the bigger problem. I think, to your point, it's almost a little bit of Zeke's fault because really he should have just bit the bullet. He's not going to win this. Just 36 games. It would be over after this week.
And you
get it done and over with because now, hindsight, you're 2-3. It's a continuous distraction. Honestly, right now, if you look at the Cowboys, you ask me, they're not making the playoffs right now.
And you have Kansas City, too. That's one team I didn't mention you got to play. You got to play the best team in football by power rankings, technically. Same record.
I feel like Zeke should, now he's continuously staying in the news. This is going to be ongoing. This is going to be continuous distraction. It's obviously going to carry on in next year, most likely. The way it's looking now, it's going to carry on in next year. He should have just bit the bullet, honestly. It's a tough decision to make. It's not an easy decision to make, but hindsight's 20/20. But looking in hindsight, he definitely should have bit the bullet. He would have been out against the 49ers this week. Looking back at it, how they're 2-3 now, it would have been worth it.
I really hope after all of this he is innocent. And trust me, I'm not saying he's guilty, because he's very defensive about this, and he said timeless again, this is not who I am, this is not what I stand for. But at the same time, there's this contradiction, because like we've said, it would have been better for him to bite the bullet, but he's also trying to prove a point to the point where he is an innocent man. But through all of this is kind of the system we're in with the NFL. It's you can't really get a perfect world here. Mm-hmm. And it was the same, like you said, with Tom Brady. It was the same exact situation. If Tom Brady was a part of Deflategate or whatever that was in the past, that's way in the past now. But whatever happened with the Brady situation, obviously it was kind of confusing, because he was supposed to be suspended for those games, and then the next season he's got to serve this 4-game suspension to start it out, and you got Jimmy Garoppolo, Jacoby Brissett. So personally, I hope that the NFL moving forward, like I said, Roger Goodell still questions me, a lot of concerns as a commissioner. I think I speak on behalf of a lot of people here.
Well, he's gonna be here for a while.
Maybe perfect the way that this is done, because like I said, I honestly don't know, is he suspended or is he not?
It's going to be hard to perfect, because I just feel like the people you're dealing with too, you're just traditionally, aggressive people that are going to fight back. They're not just going to take, you give me a 6-game suspension for what looks like no reason. No, I'm not just going to take this. These people are going to fight back. They're not going to deal with it, especially in only a 16-game season. They're going to fight back for every inch. It's just the manner of this league and how it's run too. It's not run well by Roger Goodell and company. And the players aren't going to take it, so you're never going to figure it out. Really, it's going to be an ongoing thing that's going to be really hard to solve.
Well, Zeke or no Zeke, the Eagles are still 5-1, so let's get it. Speaking of the Eagles, let's move on now to a very, very touchy-feely topic. Mike, we were watching the Thursday night football game. We were having a good time. We were eating some very, very cheap pizza, having a good time.
Was it Elio's?
It was
some
frozen pizza. We might have actually.
I think we went to Diamond Pizza.
We might. Okay,
yeah, we went to Diamond Pizza, a little joint around the corner.
Oh wait, no. So it was actually pretty good. Never mind. I was for some reason thinking something else. But either way, we were watching that game. We were noticing some very, 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 very wrong things. We saw an interception get called back on a penalty on a pass interference that was completely non-existent.
That was.
We saw a plethora.
There, but come on now.
We saw a plethora of holding calls that were never called, illegal blocking in the back calls that were never called, which was fine if it was only on if it was on both teams. But no, the Eagles have all the calls and the Panthers have none. Literally the worst refereeing
what's
I've
the
ever
funny
seen.
part? Like scrolling through Twitter, like just this whole last week, every time I see an Eagles article, about the Panthers game, or just an Eagles article around now, and they use a picture from the Panthers game, it's always a picture of a defensive lineman getting held. It's funny. I saw an article Fletcher Cox getting held. I saw an article Derek Barnett was getting held. I saw one Vinny Curry was getting pushed in the back. I saw one who was it? Vinny Curry again. He was getting hugged from the back. Like it's bad.
And who can we blame for all this? Pete motherfucking Morelli. I think we're allowed with that, right?
Oh, we're all good.
We'll check with the station afterwards. We'll talk to them.
We're good.
They're nice people. So anyways, we have a petition from a Mr. Will Philbrick from Little Rock, Arizona. Good Eagles fan.
Oh, he's from
Will,
Arkansas.
shout out
I love
to you.
It.
Arkansas. Oh, my bad. Anyways, my dude made a petition which currently now has over 69,000 signatures, saying, I'll just read it off right here. NFL referee Pete Morelli has a clear and statistically obvious bias against the Philadelphia Eagles. Over the last 4 games that he has officiated that the Eagles were playing in, they were flagged a total of 40 times for 396 yards, while the opponent in those games were flagged a mere 8 times for 74 yards. It's unacceptable, puts the Eagles at a disadvantage. So basically what he's saying is he just wants Pete Morelli to not referee Eagles games anymore. And honestly, I think with the statistics,
it's fair.
Yeah,
it's definitely fair. I'm not saying there's a whole Pete Morelli,
scandal,
Eagles voodoo doll.
But the Vikings had the same issue.
Yeah, I've heard the Vikings had a little issue with him especially last year against the Steelers, where every single I was reading every single penalty seemed to just
Maybe-
extend the Steelers' drive.
Uh,
But there's no Pete Morelli has like an Eagles voodoo doll chilling in his living room at
Guys.
home or something.
Guys, I know what this is. He went to the wrong cheesesteak place. We told him to go to Pat's. He went to Patrick's.
Yeah.
Probably had a bad time.
Ah,
He went to
probably had-
Patty's Pub.
He had a bad time.
something's up with
Yeah.
that though. I mean, Doug Peterson and Jeffrey
I
Lurie.
don't necessarily think it's conspiracy, but it's just something that's non-existent in football games. Like there is no way.
I'd still
I'm
rather
still young,
have.
but I've seen football long enough that in 4 games, one team gets flagged 40 times and the other team gets flagged 8 times when you play 4 different teams. Like it just doesn't make sense.
that yardage just even last Thursday, 10 for 126 to compare to what 1 for 1.
Yeah, 1 for 1 yard.
And
That's awful.
I think the most really eye-catching and shocking statistic that you take away from the whole Pete Morelli incident, Dave Zingaro tweeted out, NBC Sports writer, this was the first time in NFL history one team had over 120 penalty yards while the other team had fewer than 10. 120 penalty yards compared to 10 is quite a large gap, one that I would say is not really explainable. And I'm not saying, like we said, there's not like, oh, he's definitely biased against Philadelphia Eagles. I'm just saying if you watch that game versus the Carolina Panthers, there are instances. And the Eagles still pulled out the victory, a very, very solid victory. They held on in that game. In a game, I thought they were going to let it slip away there. Cam Newton actually had something going there, but we do know how clutch, and I'm putting the quotation is clutch Cam Newton is. Overall, I don't think this is the first time. One incident that's really stuck out to me was obviously back in 2007 with the Chargers and Broncos. How could one forget the Ed Hockley incident? Can you guys remember that? Remember Ed Hockley? And like you said, he's had this incident in Minnesota before. I don't know if he has something against the Vikings and the Eagles specifically, but you
it's
hire
just
the
something
best
this
of
league
the
doesn't
best.
need. It's
You
just-
hire the best of the best.
It just doesn't
It's
make
just
sense because
ridiculous.
if you think about this, it correlates with every single sport really. If you look at basketball, if you look at football, if you look at hockey, the team who commits to more infractions than gets to a rule book tends to be the team that's lagging behind, that's slower than the other team, that is less dominant than the other team because the other team's better than them. So the other team has to break rules in order to keep it close with them. But really, it didn't look like that. Were the Panthers dominating the Eagles at all at points in the game? No. The Eagles were physically dominating that game, both defensively and offensively, especially after Luke Kuechly got hurt. Mostly after Luke Kuechly got hurt. But that's when the plethora of penalties came for no reason. It did not look like it wasn't like the Eagles were getting beaten all the time by these Panthers receivers and all that. There was only there was 1, 2, 3, probably even 4 pass interference calls I disagree with.
And it says something when it's 40 times in the past 4 games for 396 yards. That's 396 penalty yards. Tom Brady would have a problem throwing 396 yards offensively in a game. These are just defensive penalties, offensive penalties. I'm saying TB12, I mean, I love him. I'm not saying he couldn't do it. He could definitely do it. But this is besides the point. The point is that my whole thing is when you hire the best of the best, and this is not the first time, it's not even just Morelli. I feel like the NFL, the NBA, even the umpires in the MLB, there's just a lot of times where I'm sitting there and I'm watching professional sports, and I feel like it didn't used to be like this, but within the past 6-7 years it has, where I go, how is he qualified to referee a game of such high stature and such high? Because, you know, they'll say that, oh, it's just a regular season game, but this is the NFL. We play 16 weeks. Every single game matters. Every single play matters. The Eagles obviously won the game, but there's still this frustration and there's still this anger towards someone, and I think that it says a lot when Malcolm Jenkins goes out there. Thing had 60,000 signatures by Tuesday. The game was on a Thursday.
Yeah.
60,000 signatures.
Yeah,
It's
my
incredible.
biggest concern as an Eagles fan is not that it's not that Morelli just can't referee Eagles games anymore. It's honestly, to me, it's for the rest of the season because the Eagles, being 5-1, if the discrepancy wasn't as bad as it was on Thursday night, we're beating the Panthers 28-13. We're beating the Panthers 31-13, honestly. Cam Newton's throwing 4 picks, no touchdowns. And honestly, it sounds cocky as an Eagles fan, but we dismantled them piece by piece.
If you watch that game, this is all bias aside. If you just watch that game, you know.
And
I
don't
they
care
could
if
not protect
Panthers
Cam Newton.
say
They could-
oh, we didn't have Luke Kuechly, we didn't have Lane Johnson, we didn't have one of the best right tackles in the league. You didn't have your
I
best
thought it was
linebacker.
funny. The Panthers Twitter tweeted out after the game is the Eagles overcome the injured Panthers in the Thursday night game. Are you kidding
wow.
me? You had Fozzie Whitaker, your third string running back, get
Fozzie
out.
Bear.
I mean, Luke Kuechly's a huge injury. I agree.
He's a superstar. He's the best player on the team. I'm not gonna lie.
He's the best.
He's
He's
the
the best
leader.
linebacker.
I
No,
think
he's the best
leader.
linebacker in the league. Let's just say he's the best linebacker in the
But
league.
compared to who he lost, Jordan Hicks,
But it's just the fact they only had 2 injuries.
Ronald Darby,
Jordan Hicks
Sidney
went
Jones.
down at
I'm
one
sorry.
point. Brandon Graham went down at one point.
Nigel Bradham went down at
Rodney
one point.
McLeod's been bagged up this season. Jordan Hicks went down. He's returning to practice. Fletcher Cox was injured, and we're up all these backup cornerbacks. Lane Johnson was hurt. So I just don't understand that whole the whole idea.
I think it's funny because I think it's not even just the Eagles. It could be any team. I feel like this would be kind of approached from a different angle if it was, let's say the Eagles were winning this game, like you said, like 38-7, but the calls were still kind of lopsided. You still noticed a lot of, let's say, bias against the Eagles. But the fact that the game was so close is, I feel like that's why it's catching so much attention when really the attention, and I'm not saying like we're only focusing on this because it was so close and it was an excuse to say, oh, well, this is why we barely won. The Eagles won the game and they would have won the game officiating or bad officiating. They outplayed the Panthers on every side. I thought they played a great game. But I think that regardless of what the score was, this is something that really just needs more attention.
Yeah,
overall.
I mean, really, this game was close because of officiating at some point. One Jalen Mills pass interference got an interception by Rodney McLeod reversed. That was the Panthers' second possession of the second half, I believe. They got a field goal on that drive. Then I believe 2 drives later, maybe the drive after, someone else got a pass interference or someone got a defensive holding, some kind of defensive penalty that
I think Mills had a defensive holding.
Yeah, Mills might have had defensive holding that extended a drive when it was a 3rd down and the Panthers didn't convert again, and I believe they ended up getting a touchdown on that, maybe a field goal, but that's just points right there that could have been off the board if it wasn't for penalties. I mean, Personally, I think that Jalen Mills with the interception, Rodney McLeod, I don't see how too much pass interference is. I mean, that ball was 5 yards underthrown. That was a Donovan McNabb thrown ball.
He would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for those meddling kids, because Carolina had that one drive at the end where they could have sent that thing into overtime, maybe even won the game.
They had 2 drives where they could have won the game.
Luckily, the Eagles' defense has been playing so well to the point where they were able to stop them on that final drive.
I mean, honestly, the Panthers had every single chance to win that game, really, with the lopsided penalties, really. I mean, even it's just not biased or like one team is favoring the other. When you only have one penalty against you and 10 the other team, you're getting a gift. You should win that game.
And when you're at home field advantage,
exactly.
when you have exactly the way you said it, when you have your team just getting all this bias, and when the other team is just as injured, actually, to be honest, more injured than you are, but I'm not even going to use that as an excuse.
Doesn't matter.
You should win the game. And you know what? That's the thing. When we're talking about these injuries, the Eagles adapt to the injuries. The thing why? They have depth. They have players in the back. We have Najee Good. We have Joe Walker. We have linebackers besides Jordan Hicks and Michael Kendricks that can make tackles.
Yeah. Last year, it's a lot.
It's a different story. But the thing is, the Eagles picked up, so it's like Panthers, okay, I'm sorry you guys lost Luke Kuechly, but who's behind him? It's next man up, This isn't, this isn't, Pee Wee League.
Listen, I don't get the whole injury thing because I've said this before on the show, but this is something I always like to really put out there because it's a good thing to think about. When you're playing in the NFL, see, when you go to a school like Alabama and you're playing, they say there are certain players who are NFL ready, and they're good in college, but they're not NFL ready. And there's a reason for that because the NFL is, let's say, like Alabama. Every player is playing like a guy on Alabama because this is the best of the best. Even a guy who's on the bench or a guy like Nelson Aguilar in 2016 when you said like, oh, he wasn't that great of a receiver last year. Even consider all that, all things considered, he's still a pro NFL player. So even if you have injuries, I'm not saying your chance of winning doesn't decrease because your talent's definitely not there. Your best players are not playing, but you still have pro-efficient players. You're still playing with the best of the best, and I believe that this Carolina football team has been playing a lot better this year. They were saying that up to this point, are the Eagles for real? Because the only for real game, I guess, in the quotations, was Kansas City. So it was all about what they did in this game. And they beat Carolina. They did it pretty decisively. It was a very well-played game by them. So I just don't see why Carolina even has to throw in the whole injury thing right now because the Eagles could throw that in too. The Eagles are crippled as well.
Yeah,
they're still 5-1. They still won.
No, they can throw the injury hand in and triple the amount.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell me all about depth all you want, but tell me why Nelson Aguilar is scoring touchdowns and why Marcus
Nelson Aguilar is scoring touchdowns.
It's all about coaching. The Eagles have a new receiver coach this year, and what happened? Nelson Aguilar gets better. It's all about coaching. Honestly, Jim Schwartz is one of the better defensive coordinators in the league. And the front seven is one of the best front sevens in the league. The Panthers really didn't face a front
That's a
seven.
good
The 2
question.
weeks before that, the Panthers didn't face a front seven like that. So it just comes to a point where it's just matchup.
You think Jim Schwartz is going to be here next year?
He better be here next
that's what
year,
I'm saying.
or
I
I'm going
think-
to send him a letter expressing my displeasure of him.
I think he's going to be here.
I'll
just
write him a letter of recommendation.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
if you look at the
It's
defense he
incredible.
has now, there's only so few places you can go with better
And
defenses.
honestly, I don't get the whole why coaches want to rush to head coaching positions. If you're in a good spot that gets you head
Yeah.
coaching looks, you're in that good spot because you have talent and you're just on a good streak. Why not have fun with that? That's what Jim Johnson said.
I think Jim Schwartz knows too. Like he's already been a head coach. I think he already knows. Like you know what?
Yeah.
I've kind of.
What is
like
he going to
this
go coach
position.
the Lions? You know how
'Cause Jim
how
Schwartz
hard
could
it
be
is
the
to go coach
next-
the Lions.
He could be the best next Eagles defensive coordinator
Oh, he could
since
be the
Jim
next Jim
Johnson.
Johnson.
He honestly could be
Yeah,
because of the talent we have.
Hey, gyms are always welcome to coordinate the Eagles defense.
Jim was the man.
Jim Stakes.
Jim Stakes.
Jim Stakes.
So many
Actually,
Jims. Every
that-
Eagles defensive coordinator should be named Jim from here on out.
Yeah.
That's
No
still
bull
the
crap.
best steak
And
I've had
they should
personally.
change their name.
Jim Steaks, by the
Philadelphia
way.
Jims.
If you're in Philadelphia, obviously Pat's and Geno's, they say those are the tourist destinations. Personally, I like Jim's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I really like the meat.
I
I,
li-
like
I-
how it's not too chewy.
I like
so-
Tony Luke's.
Tony Luke's. I like Tony Luke's.
Luke's is really
Oh,
underrated.
I've never
oh
had
my
Tony
God.
Luke's
Guys.
Not
outside.
Morgan Hall Tony Luke's.
No.
Like the
Guys,
I've had
guys,
the Tony
guys,
Luke's at
guys,
Citizens.
guys,
It's a good
guys.
Tony Luke's.
I just realized the main reason why Pete Morelli has been so rude to the Eagles. Because we got rid of arguably the best NFL player in history. And I'm just going to give you guys a moment to get ready for this name. John Dorenbos.
Aw.
Next team.
Well, either that or he's eating the Tony Luke's at Morgan and not the Tony Luke's at Citizens Bank Park or in
he's got to go to the
Philadelphia.
Tony Luke's. Down
He's eating
south-
at the wrong
South
Tony
Philly.
Luke's.
Oh.
It's putting him in a bad mood.
Guys, I want to talk about Aaron Rodgers being injured for the rest of the season.
The
Sorry
N-
to just switch
the
it up like
NFC
that,
the-
but
no, well,
we got to do
thank
that.
you, but the
This is going to
NFC
be banned.
The NFC is extremely open now.
This whole
who's winning the NFC?
year is open and it's
Oh,
awesome.
no, we don't know what's going to happen. Honestly, the Packers aren't a playoff team without Aaron Rodgers, unless Brett Hundley can prove me wrong. I hope he does,
Listen,
because Brett Hundley's
I
pretty cool.
hope the
but
UCLA Bruin takes them to new heights. I hope he shines.
I like Brett
but
Hundley, yeah.
Brett Hundley's
no,
fun. He's
he's
fun.
I think Brett Hundley's a good player.
I remember when he was on UCLA. I
He
used to
doesn't- when you're
enjoy
watching him
UCLA
play.
USC games
Yeah.
when he was playing for UCLA.
It was fun. Well, I mean, the Packers, do you really think they're going to make it to the NFC
Wait.
Championship game?
Well,
You know
who's
what?
gonna
Without
win
Aaron
the
Rodgers?
North?
Right
If
now,
the
you have to
Vikings
say
or
the
Lions.
Vikings. You have to say the Vikings because
You
their
can't out
defense.
Stafford and the Lions.
You have to have somewhat of a defense to be sustainable over a year. It's just true.
Yeah.
You just have to have.
And the
a
Vikings do
defense
have
to
a
be some-
defense.
Uh,
That's one thing the Vikings don't.
9-7
is
is going to win this
defensive.
division. 9-7 is going to win this division.
Heck, 500 could win this division.
It really can.
500 could win this division.
Who's
Yeah.
the, I mean,
I wanna
really,
move on,
outside
yeah.
the Eagles, who are the class of the NFC?
Well,
It's
if
the
when I
Seahawks
look at
and
this,
maybe Falcons, but they're having a little bit of a curse right now.
it's extremely
Hangover.
baffling to me because all right, so if we're looking at the NFC and you guys are asking me, the top leaders are obviously the Rams, Panthers, Vikings, and Eagles. Now, if we were to scroll up and we were to look at the AFC, obviously it's a little bit different. But overall, looking at the playoffs right now for the NFC, if the season were to end today, we'd have the Eagles, Vikings, Panthers, Rams, Packers, subject to change, obviously, and the Saints.
Change.
The Saints.
Drew
would get in there.
Brees.
Yes, Drew Brees, please go to the playoffs and and prove to everyone that you're the best
Drew Brees
quarterback
just
of all
wants to
time.
Bowl.
None of these really scare me because, like you said, Brett Hundley's the quarterback in Green Bay now. The Rams are 4-2, but I don't really see the Rams being playoff.
The
worthy.
Rams look nice this
Yeah,
year, though.
the Rams' offense is really good. Their defense can be can be really good.
They
at
might
times,
just be
especially
how
with
we
Wade
were
Phillips,
last year.
Especially as Wade Phillips is offensive coordinator. I really like Robert Quinn this year. How he's just in a pure just go get the passer mode. Playing back a linebacker. Aaron Donald. We know the talent on there.
And
the Rams got a lot of talent with
if we look at those
Wade
standings,
Phillips coaching.
if we look at those standings, we know that Green Bay is honestly probably going to fall down. They're going to lose that. Oh, thank you, Taylor. They're probably going to lose that spot to either the Falcons or Redskins. The Seahawks are definitely going to make it up there somehow. Wait a minute,
The
guys. can we
Seahawks
get
will
a-
make up their ground. Respectively, I think the Seahawks will steal that division again. If you ask me, they always find a way.
See, they're always like slow in the beginning of the year, but then they always pick up.
I never doubt them though in the playoffs. I trust Russell Wilson. That's a quarterback I trust in the postseason. You know what I mean?
But for some reason, I feel like it's just not their year, kind of like how it hasn't been their year in recent years. But they are the next toughest competitor when it comes to the Eagles.
I think
You gotta think
the
about it.
Eagles' biggest threat is a team that they've already played, the Carolina Panthers, and I really don't trust Cam Newton late in games. That was one thing I didn't say when we were talking about the Eagles and the whole Pete Morelli thing is Cam Newton to me is not a 2-minute quarterback. You give him the ball with 2 minutes left on the clock, go and win me the game. I don't think he's going to do that, and especially when he's playing a team like the Eagles who are playing well defensively. The Vikings have been playing well defensively. The Rams do have a good defense. This NFC to me is kind of ugly. And I agree, Mass. I think the Seattle Seahawks will find a way to maybe skirmish their way back in there. One team that I had a lot of optimism about that really just hasn't been great, especially with the whole Jameis Winston thing going back and forth, is the Buccaneers right now at 2-3.
They're swaying.
We talked them up a lot this year. We actually had them winning that division.
Well, they had a little Jameis Winston going down. That kind of.
He's having a bit of a
Ryan Fitzpatrick, the Ivy Leaguer,
their
came
defense hasn't taken a step up. We really overlooked their defensive
but
problems.
don't count out the Niners, please don't, because they're
No,
0-6.
please do.
Don't count out the Cardinals. Can we
real-
talk about how Bruce Arians knows how to coach every dude above the age of 30? I mean,
I
Adrian
love it.
Peterson
It's
just
a senior
lit it up.
daycare.
Like, bro, I'm saying Carson Palmer was right in All or Nothing. He said Larry Fitzgerald is one of the best NFL wide receivers, even though he could be one of the worst basketball players ever. Because it's just the veteranship on this Cardinals team. I think
You
adding
really
AP,
just like that gutsiness.
adding AP just showed that extra gutsiness. Shout out Chris Collinsworth. But
Got
like,
that gutsiness.
that's what I'm saying. Honestly, I think the Cardinals might start finding this little like track back upwards, low key.
Hey, they got a pretty good kid on defense. His name's Hassan Reddick. We like him a lot around
Oh,
these
we
parts.
do like
Oh,
Hassan
yeah.
Reddick a lot.
He comes
He's a
from, like-
great guy.
he's from
We
UPenn,
suggest you
right?
follow him on
Hassan,
Twitter.
come back.
Please, we need you, Hassan. This
Oh,
is a beg.
We could use him.
I mean, there's one definite variable looking at this NFC. If you ask me, like it's the Eagles, especially these 2 weeks coming up. The Eagles can beat the Redskins on Monday night. Then they're home against the 49ers.
they're at the link on Monday night.
Exactly. They're home those 2 weeks. If they can beat the 49ers, then beat the Redskins, then beat the 49ers, they will be 3-0 in division, 6-0 in a conference, and 7-1.
Obviously,
Hey,
you guys may have.
that's great stature right there. That's a great place to be in
So
after 8 games.
being in Philadelphia, I hope you guys can answer this with as much as it's tough for me because when we talk about the Patriots or Boston, it's hard for me to not be biased. But I'd like to ask you guys from an honest perspective, with the remaining schedule and with where the division stands, do you have the Eagles locked up as your NFC East winner right now with the way everything's going?
Yeah,
I-
that's
I-
very bad. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Honestly, barring injury, barring setback, there's no reason this team doesn't have the NFC East
The
locked
only
up right
t-
now.
and
There's really no reason. You beat the Redskins at home on the season opener. You're playing them at home Monday night. Nigel Bradham came out and said, "This is our NFC championship game right here."
And it's funny
Yeah.
because when you really think about it, if you looked at it from an overall perspective, one would think the Redskins haven't been doing too much, so the Cowboys would be number 2, but the Redskins are actually 3-2. And you made a good point, Mike. You have the Skins here Monday night at the Link, and then you got to play the Cowboys twice. One thing that I really wanted to look at here is you have the Skins. You got to play a game against the Broncos. The Bears, kind of iffy. These back-to-back games are really going to be interesting for me. They have to play on the road in Seattle and on the road in Los Angeles.
I can't wait till those
So-
2 weeks. I'm not scared of them
And
at all.
I think at that point in the year, with where we're at right now, that'll be about 6-7 weeks down the road when they play the Rams. The Rams are 4-2 right now. We will
And
know
at that
by
point,
then.
let's remember that Ronald Darby should be back.
Ronald Darby and Darby.
Darby.
Ronald Darby, in my opinion,
Dipper Darbly Dip.
should be back for the Cowboys game.
And then hopefully,
he should be back for the Cowboys
now
game.
this one could be
Especially after
a
the
tough
bye
one.
week.
When does Sidney Jones come back?
He doesn't need to come back this year.
I gotta.
keep
I mean,
Sam
yeah,
Johnson
Tim
next
Robinson,
year.
Jalen Mills, Russell Douglas.
I don't want him coming back this
You
year.
don't want him to get injured?
There's no point. There really is no point.
Because I gotta
Honestly, in a way, Russell Douglas and Jalen Mills are looking pretty solid right now. They can hold their own, and Patrick
let
Robinson's
the other guys play. Yeah.
playing very good on his
But I
own.
gotta be honest. That's the thing. Because once Ronald Darby comes back, we definitely have our CB1. But Sidney Jones, honestly, like. He was supposed to be a first-round talent corner, just kind of like Jalen Mills was, and we got him later. And, I think part of me feels like we have a little bit of an Asante Samuel to come up here in Philly, but, we just can't play him.
And here's the
Unnecessary,
interesting
Sam.
thing. I mean, when we need to see
We'll play when we need to.
when we
I
need
guess.
to see what we're going to do with the safety situation, because Rodney McLeod and Malcolm Jenkins won't be here for forever. Jalen Mills could possibly make a slide back to safety. He played a little bit of safety in college at LSU, and honestly, in LSU, you can play anywhere in the defensive backfield.
Safety,
Still
yeah,
got Jalen Watkins from Florida. I was actually big on him when he got drafted.
Oh, I
saw
was
him
huge on
play.
him. I saw him.
Yeah.
He was the first pick on day 3.
I forgot all
the year
about
he
him.
got drafted. I was
Safety,
so hyped.
I'm not too worried because you can be pretty old
Corey
and still be a good
Graham.
safety.
Oh yeah, I agree, but I think Jalen Mills will have a nice
Wait.
little rotation.
Yeah.
Be a high safety because that's what he played in LSU, and he's not fast enough not too fast as a corner, but as a safety, he's very good because he did play that in college.
I'd like to give a shout-out to all my family in Rye Beach, New Hampshire right now, and the University of New Hampshire, a school that very gratefully offered me a scholarship. I'm sorry I did not attend.
And used to have Chip Kelly as our offensive coordinator.
Corey Graham went to University of New Hampshire. Go Wildcats. I actually
all
toured
these Chip Kelly connections on the Eagles. I can't get over it.
They have some cool colors. I bought a shirt when I toured University of New
hockey
Hampshire.
team.
I don't know where the long sleeve shirt went for my tour of University of New Hampshire, but it's all white and it says UNH with the Wildcat. Very clean. Should wear it more. And honestly, Mike, when are we getting these Derek Barnett jerseys?
As soon as they make the switch over to Kelly Green, which they should have they should have a Kelly Green alternate jersey next year. Jeffrey Lurie is trying to get that second helmet approved. Come on with the helmet stuff.
Tennessee's about the textbook Merriam-Webster textbook definition of a disaster at the moment, but I'm still a Derek Barnett fan.
Honestly, you know what I'm down for the Eagles? We can keep this whole helmet setup. Just replace the midnight green with Kelly Green. You can do that. Just replace the paint stickers.
And
now it look really nice.
See how it looks.
Speaking of replacements and Derek Barnett and first-round players and whatnot, let's talk about some first-round players. I want to talk about a very interesting one. Let's talk about all the first-round quarterbacks we've kind of seen throughout the year, but let's go through our little rotation. Deshaun Watson's doing nice this year. 15 touchdowns, 5 picks.
Hey, I made a finesse move.
And I was hoping that he'd do
I made a
good.
finesse move and trade for Will Fuller. In my fantasy league, and
Deshaun
Deshaun Watson's the next Tom Brady, so I'm extremely,
You know what
extremely
really-
hip on Will Fuller right now.
You know what I feel like a lot of people don't know, but they should because it's right in front of them, is DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson are both Clemson guys, and they're both on the same team. And it's
gotta
cool.
love it. It's
cool.
amazing.
No,
I
it's
love
totally cool. And I'm loving it. And listen, it was funny. I knew Deshaun Watson was for real, and as a lot of people I think will agree with me here, was that game versus the Patriots where he pushed New England to the brink and should have won. I mean, he threw a Hail Mary pass at the end and it was almost completed. He's 16th in the lead right now in overall quarterback rankings. He has over 1,200 yards. Interceptions are quite limited at 5. I mean, it's not flashy, but compared to a guy like, Matt Ryan, who's third and 6th this year, Trevor Siemian, who's supposed to be the guy out in Denver, whatever that means, Ben Roethlisberger's thrown 8. That's a big story.
You know who they reminded me of? They reminded me a little bit of the Falcons last year, just putting up numbers. 36, 57, 42, 33. Just
Big
putting up numbers. Being in gunslinger shootouts, but guess what? I'm going to score more points than you. That's what I'm loving about it.
He's playing like he's still back in college.
Leading it. You can't argue with it. And, the proof is in the pudding. Look how many points they're putting up.
The thing I like better
amazing.
about Deshaun Watson, too, is that, he kind of reminds me of, a Cam Newton, but with so much better.
And I can almost trust him more.
Honestly, when I see him in the pocket.
If I can shift this over to Cam Newton a little bit, I feel like Cam Newton's not as mature as... I feel like...
Deshaun Watson
I think Deshaun Watson's more mature than Cam
He's
Newton
smarter.
right now.
I think Deshaun Watson is ahead of where he should.
Cam Newton is a child.
Well, Deshaun
Watson's his rookie year, and he's acting like...
He's mature.
I think intellectually, Deshaun Watson's way ahead of where he needs to be.
Exactly.
He's smart with the football.
He's way ahead of Cam Newton already.
And for a rookie,
when it comes to his mind.
pretty damn accurate for a rookie.
He's doing a great job.
He has a good moxie, right? I love how he's carrying himself around.
He had a 73.
It makes me glad because it's glad to see Bill O'Brien doing well, too, because, being a...
It's glad to see finally the Texans can actually be a threat after this last 6 years of hearing they could be a threat, but they never actually were. It's great that they know they actually are now.
And there's not a single game this season where he has dipped below a 50% completion rating. He had a 66 versus New England, had a 73 versus Tennessee. They took Tennessee to town. Tennessee, by the way, that's a really confusing division.
That is really confusing.
I remember that loss.
The Texans need to get that get some help.
That loss to the Chiefs too. I remember technically it was going to be 42-24, but the Texans were like, nope. Last second of the game, we don't care. We're scoring a touchdown. We're going for 2 points.
We got DiGiorno cooking in the oven, and it's going to be still fresh when we get back because DiGiorno's the best.
They only lose by 3. It's like these Texans These Texans refuse to lose games by. But if you think about it, these Texans refuse to lose games by embarrassing points. They fight all the way till the end, and that's what I really just dig about them.
I love
I'm
how
about to start giving me a battle red jersey right now.
Oh, let's just go down to Houston where they wear all battle red.
Aren't they doing the all red? No, wait. New England's doing the all blue this weekend.
Color rush.
Yeah. All blue.
No. Color Rush game is Raiders Chiefs.
NFL, please get rid of Color Rush.
They're not even playing on the Color Rush. I read an article today that they're going all blue for no apparent reason.
Nice.
I don't know what Robert Kraft's or the Kraft family is.
It's Throwback Thursday, Mass. You had the idea. This is probably
get rid of Color Rush and put in Throwback Thursday.
Show, but we need to keep bringing it up.
Get rid of Color Rush, put in Throwback Thursday. We'll talk about this another time.
Can we have
another?
Hold on. Let's start a petition for that. Actually,
a petition. We're gonna start a petition for it.
Can we get 60,000 by Tuesday?
Get Pete Morelli banned from Color Rush games.
Let's just put hashtag Pete Morelli on it, and it'll definitely get signed.
Oh, word, definitely. We'll definitely do that. I thought someone was trying to end a studio there for a second, which means there is an unknown being telling us to talk about the next quarterback. Don't worry, unknown being. We'll talk about him now. Let's talk about Mitchell Trubisky. He finally got his first 2 starts in. So therefore, that's obviously enough to talk about him as a quarterback. He's so bad, it's not even funny. No, I'm playing. Mitchell Trubisky's not doing bad. He doesn't have the wide receivers right now. Offensive line's playing pretty good. He's got to just rely a lot on Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen. But what do you guys got to say so far about the young Buck start from the young North Carolinians?
I think it was funny because obviously we were at the draft, and I think it's so ironic when I was watching that Monday Night Football
They traded
game.
up. Oh my
God. The commentator goes, a lot of people in Chicago were real upset when this kid got drafted, but he has a chance to prove them all wrong here, man. Everything on the line. Let's see what he's got. And what does he do? First play.
I love how John Gruden.
Oh
John Gruden calls it out, but he jinxes everybody.
Oh my gosh,
John
it
Gruden's
was
got to
so
stop.
bad too. He could have ran out of bounds. He could have thrown it out of bounds. It was first down. He had the whole field to go.
Harrison Smith was playing with him though. Zach Miller did look open.
And there's
I'm
one.
not gonna lie.
There's one thing about
He had
that.
to play a tough Vikings
It comes
defense his
with
first game.
experience and maturity, and I grip
happens.
that and I accept
Hey.
that. I think with the situation in Chicago, he's actually not doing awful because the Bears are just really a
It
mess.
bad.
reminds
They're
me
not
of the
really-
Carson Wentz situation last year too, somewhat of an extent. Not a lot of help. There's going to be a lot of growing pains. You're not going. Rome wasn't
He'll
built
get
in one
there.
day, Chicago. Rome wasn't built in one day, so take your time. He's going to mature.
Yeah,
and, he's
Romo
not
wasn't
gonna
built in one day. He was built.
Romo was built over
Romo
the
was
years,
built-
but he was taken down in one day.
How long do
Yeah,
you?
right.
So if Rome was built in one day, why is it taking our library to be built in 3 years?
Oh, no, it's gonna. This library, man, it's
I had a
Oh,
friend
gosh.
come and I warned him. I said, "There's one thing about Temple's campus that you should know. There's this really awkward hole in the middle of campus. We call it the bunker.
yeah.
And he didn't
It's
even-
supposed to be for the library,
didn't
but
even
it's
point
just
it
gonna
out.
get finished whenever they feel like it.
Oh, I didn't even need to point it out. He just goes, "Is that the bunker?" And I go, "Yeah, that's the bunker."
Mitch Trubisky's at the bunker with his
He is in the bunker.
glad victory
Tariq
over
Cohen.
the. Well, he just got his first career victory over the Ravens, 27-24
But the-
at Baltimore. But the
yeah.
Ravens kind of suck. So what's going on with that?
But it's still at Baltimore, so you can give him a little props. But I'll
Like,
say
oh, yeah,
I'll
we
just
gotta
say one
say it.
sentence. Baltimore's offense is not an NFL offense. We'll just keep it that. Then we're gonna go back to Chicago Bears.
But they have Jeremy Maclin and Mike Wallace and Joe Flacco.
yeah, but they still run the ball with no running backs and offensive
Oh,
line.
yeah.
Joe Flacco, what do we know Joe Flacco for? He can throw the ball 80 yards in the air. What do we know Jeremy Maclin for? He's a pretty decent deep threat. Hey, Jeremy Maclin, just run straight. Joe Flacco would just bomb it every single time, run under it. That's what you should do. That's how Joe Flacco made it to the Super Bowl with Torrey Smith.
Yeah.
That's
right. Joe.
Bomb it downfield.
Yeah,
he
that's-
can bomb it. I'm tired of this. Let's just go I formation every single time. Try to be like 1990s. No, Joe Flacco, he's an elite quarterback.
Ah.
No, not now. He was when they actually played to his strengths.
That's the one thing I think of my lifetime. The one Super Bowl that I'd rather just not remember.
That was such a weird Super Bowl. I remember I was in Atlantic City watching. I was just stuck in a hotel room.
Bowl was that?
That was what number was it? I know it was
49ers Ravens.
Yeah, 49ers Ravens.
49ers Ravens.
Oh, so-
Colin Kaepernick. Remember he had a chance to
Yeah,
win.
Yeah, I
the
remember.
Super Bowl.
I remember I was locked away in the Atlantic City hotel room while my parents are downstairs,
Power outage
just
happens.
partying and in the casino watching the Super Bowl. I'm just locked away, tucked away, just eating Pizza Hut. And it was a weird Super Bowl.
It was honestly it was weird, but nothing will ever compare to that Alabama Notre Dame national championship. What I thought was actually going to be a ball game. Oh my gosh.
That was
Everett
that was
Golson.
the biggest joke of all
Everett
time.
Golson, man, could do
So
it.
Mitchell Trubisky on the list of people
Well,
to look out for.
I guess moving back to Mitchell Trubisky, obviously he's only played 2 games. He only has 1 interception, 241 yards, 73.3 rating. Like you said, he won a game against not a great Baltimore team, but he did win it in overtime. He lost a game to Minnesota. Minnesota's defense is really, really good, and obviously, like you said, Mike, Jordan Howard did look open, but Harrison Smith's a Pro Bowl safety. I still think it wasn't the smartest decision, but it will come with growing. I really don't think that. You signed Mike Glennon in the offseason, and the whole point was you have Mike Glennon now who has this experience, and then you drafted this Trubisky kid, which shocked everyone. So I guess there's all this pressure on him to be so good because of the circumstances. But overall, I don't think he's been that bad. I think the Bears are even worse than he's been. Will he get better? I think so. I mean, he has a good arm and he has good mechanics. I think he could be a little bit smarter with it, but maturity comes with everything. Overall, I'm not totally disappointed in the way he's played for the situation he's in and where he's been thrown into. The numbers aren't awful. They're not flashy either. Obviously, the most yards he's thrown a game this season was 128. Highest completion percentage is 50%. So averaging around 7 yards per throw, 30.3 QBR last week versus Baltimore. So numbers are what I would expect them to be, maybe a little bit under that.
Speaking of numbers, I was going to talk about Patrick Mahomes and when we think he might ever come in, but it might not be this year. But let's, guys, CJ
CJ Beathard, Iowa.
Beathard.
From
Oh
Iowa,
my
Hawkeye?
gosh.
Yeah,
The
Hawkeye?
best
Hawkeye
football
played for
player
49ers.
in history.
Hey,
Guys.
he almost beat the 40. He almost. Oh,
No, with
he
that
almost beat the
45-yard
Redskins.
pass to Aldrich. Okay, I'm not saying he's the guy for San Francisco. But he is a
he's the
young
guy.
buck
He's the
that
guy.
we saw. He's
He's
the
the
guy.
guy. He's the
So
guy.
much better than Brian Hoyer. But honestly, when he came in,
Anyone's the guy at this point.
He's the guy. He's
But
the
Anyone's
guy.
the guy.
I gotta be
We'll
honest.
take him.
I was watching that on Red Zone, and like we gotta talk about the 49ers. How like they're not good, but they've been losing every game only by like 3 points or less.
That scares me when they come into Philly in 2 weeks.
Like they're, I gotta be honest, they're not, and they
Hey,
put in
they're
CJ
fighting.
Beard, CJ.
Beathard.
CJ
They,
Beathard.
CJ, who I'm gonna just call him from now on. Sorry, CJ, but let's be honest. Like, they're gonna find their win soon if they keep playing like this, and it could happen this weekend against Dallas.
I'm all about CJ Beathard. They snagged him up in the 3rd round of the draft. They were able to get Reuben Foster.
Steal.
They got Reuben Foster, Solomon Thomas, 2 rounds before him. Were able to snag up Witherspoon, the cornerback out of Colorado Boulder, and then they get CJ Beathard, a guy that was overlooked. He played a very, very solid career at Iowa, and like you said, Mass, oh my God, we don't look at statistics. He was around 2,000 yards, 17 touchdowns in 2016 alone, 122.3 rating. This season, he's been unbelievable too. Obviously, like you said, the 49ers they're losing games, but it's not like they're just totally getting blown out, and it is kind of a concern if you're playing them because it's obviously a bad look when you lose to an 0-6 team, but this is an 0-6 team really making do with what they have right now, and CJ Beathard's playing out of his mind.
Yeah.
Hey, one answer for this: Chip Kelly.
Yeah,
That's why they're bad.
Kelly.
But
Chip
no,
Kelly at post Jim Harbaugh.
I just need Kyle Shanahan just figure out what he's doing with these running backs, so I know if I can just trade Carlos Hyde or start him in my fantasy league. I'm not sure yet.
It's like the 49ers just went through a golden age. You had Joe Montana and all the way up to like Jim Harbaugh. You had some great teamage, and now you're kind of just like in sort of like a Great Depression of the 49ers.
They need Vernon Davis back.
The Chip Kelly Dust Bowl,
the Great
followed
Depression
by
of the Niners.
and then
It is a
you
Great
have that
Depression.
followed by just like this team just being like dismantled. They just lost Navarro Bowman, like
they just.
and now he's on the Raiders, so he just literally
That's
like
gonna be
crossed the
Yeah,
bridge.
the Raiders could use
He literally
it,
just
though.
drove across the
Jeez.
bridge, and he was like,
Yeah, he just
all right.
he just ran across the bay. That's
He
all
did swim.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a bit of a drive, though. A lot of people don't. Yeah.
And let's be honest,
I bet he packed it up. Probably not a rank.
the Niners only have 2 less wins than the Raiders do. Like, so
The Raiders
worst
are gonna
team
get
in
their win
California.
soon. They're gonna get their win really.
I
soon.
just
They're gonna
feel
get
really
They
bad.
need wins plural.
And honestly, listen, like I'm not even.
Do you think they upset the Eagles?
No, honestly, I don't think the Raiders are playing that good this year. I don't think beast mode really adding up helps them out. Their defense, it's not really their defense, their offense this year is just not lighting up. Amari Cooper's not doing great. Michael Crabtree's not touchdown boy. He was last
He's
year.
hurt right
Derek
now.
Carr is back and forth between injuries and whatever that
And
is.
mediocrity.
I'll
And then when he
say
comes in,
this.
he's not doing that great, yeah.
Out
Like,
of
he's
these
not.
next 4 games, Dallas, Philadelphia, Arizona, New York. Here's my bold prediction. The 49ers will win 2 of those. I think they will win a game versus New York at home. I think they have every right reason to beat the Cardinals. And I'm not saying they're going to beat the Eagles, but if I had to be bold here, and honestly, like you said, Mike, there's this threat. I don't think
Give
they're
it
going
to me.
I don't think they're going to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, but this is the one game where I think within the last 2 quarters, the second half of the game, the Eagles will struggle. I think this.
It
game
could just
will
be
Do
a
you
hard
really
out
think
second
the Eagles are going to roll over a team they're supposed to roll over? No. This game is
It's
going to be like
Philadelphia Eagles
no.
we're
This
talking
is going to
about.
be like a 19-15 game. Like it's not going to be fun.
This is gonna be
It really
bad.
is. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great.
This is, yeah.
I love it.
Oh my gosh! And like now we have to talk about a quarterback for a team, and do we even have to talk about
Oh,
it?
Patrick Mahomes?
No, Deshaun Kaiser.
Oh, Deshaun Kaiser.
Deshaun Kaiser and how he's
Um,
basically like they're guys. I'm not gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the Cleveland Browns are currently and always will be just like literally the embodiment of just pure stupidity. Like it's bad.
You know what's funny? The Ravens have 2 Super Bowls. They're technically
Younger.
no. They have 2 Super Bowls, and they were the Cleveland Browns formerly.
Who was?
The Baltimore Ravens.
What?
The Browns moved to Baltimore, became the Ravens, and the Cleveland got a new Browns.
Yeah.
Browns
What?
2.0. So technically, the Cleveland Browns have 2 Super Bowls.
I'm gonna give
No.
it to you. I'm gonna give it to you as straightforward as possible. A 3rd grader could look this up, but I'm just gonna state it. He has 3 touchdowns and 9 interceptions.
He's not good. Like honestly, like I don't really know what Cleveland was. I remember in a previous
interceptions.
episode I said, throw Deshaun Kaiser and see what he can do. But
I'd rather have Kevin Hogan in there from Stanford.
I gotta be honest. I really don't know what any of these quarterbacks are doing. I don't think Cleveland knows how to even draft their players. I don't think David Njoku's the answer. Like Browns, first of all, here's what you need to do: take it out of the page from Howie Roseman and no, I'm just kidding. Just take it out of a book from any solid team. Build a foundation. What do you guys need?
Defensively, they're not god awful though.
Defensively, they're not awful, but they're bad. Defensively, they're not good.
But the thing is, they're just not good in general. Like the Browns, just when they play a football game, you're just not watching. You're not watching a competent football team.
Yeah, it's defensively they're not good. 21, 24, 31.
You know,
31.
all you need to do, like
you
don't have
30
to.
plus points 3 times.
You know who I feel bad for? Jamie Collins.
You
ever hear that name anymore?
Didn't he sign an extension with them?
Yep.
So it's his fault. It's his fault.
It's his. I don't know why.
Fault.
Jason McCourty, Devin McCourty's brother is on that team too, former Titan. Myles Garrett, man. I feel bad. I do, because Myles Garrett was supposed to be the guy this year. Defensively, he was supposed to be this new face.
He has, what does he have, 3 sacks in the 2 games he played so far?
3 sacks, he was injured, though. We have to account for that. Hopefully he gets his feet back.
Yeah, he has 3 sacks in the 2 games he played,
Jabril's not been awful. Jabril Peppers, pretty good.
But I thought
those players have a tough time succeeding.
I don't even think Hugh Jackson's that good of a, and we were actually talking about this the other day. Hugh Jackson had an 8-8 record in Oakland with a pretty bad Oakland team. It's not fair to say Hugh Jackson's not a good coach when he's had some pretty bad teams to coach throughout the years. But the Browns were in trouble of going 0-16 last year. Now they're in trouble of going in 0-16 this year, and it's even worse.
There comes a point where you just can't just throw in the whole excuse of, we're just the Browns, or it's just a bad year. Every year's a bad year. There comes a point where I'm just laughing. This is a professional sports organization. How can you wake up in the morning and be a part of the Cleveland Browns and show up to work and want to win, want to be optimistic?
Yeah, where's the accountability in
that environment?
Where's the accountability?
And it's not like the Sixers where you guys, it's like, okay, I understand the Sixers are going to get Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz. They're going to get good we trust these guys.
They did it methodically. They actually had a purpose behind it.
There's nothing to look forward to.
But what do we have? The Browns aren't even getting good players. They're getting let's get Myles Garrett and Jabril Peppers and Deshaun Kaiser, because those are big names. But let's be honest, Myles Garrett isn't doing too bad. He's got 3 sacks on the season. Jabril Peppers, I haven't heard too much about him.
He's an undersized, extremely average NFL player. College is a different story.
And then Deshaun Kaiser is just not doing good at all.
It's kind of hard to say this. This might not make sense, but he's too versatile for the NFL. In NFL, you need to have a solid position. You need to have a position where you can go and you're at home.
And Jabril,
you can't be I'm an average linebacker, average safety, and I can kind of get up in there in the box and maybe help you on a run.
He's an
That's
athlete.
what I kind of did in
You're
college.
not Tyrann Mathieu.
He's an athlete, but he doesn't quite fit the role. You know.
The thing was Tyrann Mathieu, we started to realize, okay, he's just a cover guy. He's just somebody say, okay, Tyrann, cover that guy. Okay, I got you, coach. That's Tyrann Mathieu. Jabril Peppers, he can do a little bit of everything. You got to do a lot of one thing to have a solid home in the NFL.
I'll ask you this: if you think, I'll ask you, for Jabril to be successful in the NFL, should he focus in on one part of his game?
He needs to get out of Cleveland, is what he needs to do.
Will he get out of Cleveland though? Will a team even take a risk on a guy like that?
Maybe the Jaguars, because they're just
maybe the Jaguars.
Maybe the Jets.
They took a ride on Denard Robinson. They'll probably take a ride on Jabril.
The Jaguars
Peppers.
have Jalen
They'll ride the Jabril Peppers.
If I'm Jabril Peppers, I'm trying to make some noise in the punt and kick.
I feel like the Browns are that team where you know what you're getting. You know when you go to
the
Disney,
Browns
when you go to Disney World down in Orlando, and Space Mountain. The line for Space Mountain is just so goddamn long, and you know what you're getting into. You've ridden Space Mountain before. You know it's the best ride ever, but you do kind of see what's coming. I feel like the Browns are always just waiting in line for Space Mountain. They know what's coming. They know what they're getting into. They've done it before, but they're still willing to wait in that long line for what?
They don't want to try something new.
They ever want to try anything new. I feel like it's just
what's going to hurt
the constant repetition. I feel like I'm seeing the same team every year. And believe me, I was on the show earlier this year, and we were feeling optimistic. We said, all right, I made it quite clear I did not think Deshaun Kaiser was ready for the NFL. I thought he should have stayed another year at South Bend at Notre Dame, but that was a whole other story. To see him come in and take this role as a starting quarterback, I go, okay, if you're the Cleveland Browns and you really want to make a step in the right direction, you want to solidify yourselves as, hey, we're not a joke. We're trying our best. We're building here. We're doing what we can. To put a quarterback like Deshaun Kaiser in there right away, that shows that you have confidence. You're saying, this is my guy. We drafted him. We took a risk when we could have gone with someone else, and he's not been very good. And listen, it's the same situation. Maybe he matures. Maybe he gets better. Maybe he grows. Maybe it is the system in Cleveland. But overall, to build off what you guys have been saying, they're not getting insanely flashy players, and I'm kind of getting sick and tired of Duke Johnson being the running back every single year. David Njoku from Miami is doing what he can. He actually has a pretty decent year. He has 1 touchdown, 121 yards. Kenny Britt, he's supposed to be something big this year. Extremely average. I look at this team, and maybe it is the system, maybe it's not. One thing's for sure is something's got to change, and I think this has been a long time coming. There comes a point where I do feel for Cleveland sports fans, and I know that they got the Cavaliers and the Indians were good even though they're out of the postseason. They got all this to look forward to, but this is the Browns, and whether we know it or not, in our lifetime, this used to be a historic franchise, a franchise that won, that competed, and an opportunity like such right now where you have the AFC North, the Bengals are kind of a mess. The Ravens sure as heck aren't as good as they are. This is the Browns' chance to really take that step forward, and they're not really doing that. They're staying right in the same spot as they have. It's not like they can take a step back from where they were. They're the Browns. It's hard to take a step back. I mean,
they've already taken too many steps back.
They're 0-6, and
but it's a bad 0-6.
I mean, I thought they could have at least been 2-4 or
Whereas
something.
the 49ers are losing games close. The Browns aren't even they're just not even playing good. They're the entire game is just sluggish.
The Browns just don't look well coached.
No, they don't look well coached.
And I don't think Hugh Jackson's the guy. I don't think whoever their general manager is the guy. Sorry,
I don't think whoever their owner is the guy.
Whoever decided the Browns should be called the Browns and not anything else
is not the guy.
Yeah, maybe we just slap a Bulldog logo on there. Put something it's bad.
And like you said, they're losing games. They lost to the Jets. They got smacked by the Texans. They got smacked by the Bengals. They played a close game against the Colts, but the Colts aren't that great. They really got smacked by the Ravens. The Ravens sure as heck aren't very good this year. They played a close game against the Steelers early on, but Ben Roethlisberger's not been too great this year. Neither have the Steelers, for that matter. And moving forward, they got to play the Titans, who are not great, but they're still one of the leaders for the AFC South right now. And then they got to play the Lions on the road. They got to play the Packers. Obviously not Aaron Rodgers Packers, but they still got to play them. Overall, moving forward, they have 4 or 5 pretty tough games, but the rest are a little lighter. I'd like to, and I genuinely mean this, I'd like to see the Browns win 4 or 5 games this year. I think they're capable. And
I would like the Browns to win out and make the playoffs.
I would want I want the best for them because I feel so bad, but there's just got to be a change.
At this point, yeah, until I see a change, I don't really care about the Browns doing anything.
You know what a team I really feel bad for, but don't feel bad for? The Colts.
Colts just suck.
Andrew Luck suffered a setback.
But even with Andrew Luck
he's being pushed back a little bit more, so I'm officially going to drop him on my fantasy team. Just did it
even when Andrew Luck is back though, you have a defense full of retirees and your offense.
Yeah, but the AFC South, that's all you need.
And it's true.
The AFC South is the.
But your starting running back shouldn't also be.
Conference.
Frank Gore honestly looks like he's on life support half the time he's running the ball down the field. What's going
on?
Marlon
Mack, baby, Marlon.
Whatever
Mack.
happened to Joseph Adai? Get that dude bed. I don't know.
I think he's the same age as Frank Gore, probably.
Yeah, it's true. He's probably a couple years younger. But anyways, I don't know. Out of all these young quarterbacks, are we pretty much all in agreement that Deshaun Watson probably has the brightest future?
Oh, yeah, Deshaun Watson's fantastic.
Everyone else is basically horrible, and you shouldn't watch them at all.
It's funny
ever.
Because he was little brother. He was one of the 2 or 3 that was considered a late developer, a late bloomer. So it's funny for me to see. Same thing with Dak Prescott. A lot of people disrespected Dak Prescott. So I think it's cool to see Deshaun say, hey, I know y'all said that I wasn't going to be anything special in the NFL. I wasn't ready. But to see him fill that role in a Houston Texans team that obviously coming off a division title last year is competing. And I really like him to, even with J.J. Watt out, with the way Deshaun's looking to win this division right now. So good for Deshaun, good for the Texans. And overall, the rest need to grow. They need to learn. And Deshaun Kaiser, I don't even know.
Mike, what about you? Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, it's definitely Deshaun Watson. I think it was obvious even pre-draft, just seeing what he did in college, the pedigree he carried, the praise he was getting from Dabo Swinney, his fellow teammates, and even other people in the college football ranks. It was just obvious. People compared him to the Michael Jordan, of the NFL, of what he could be. And honestly, it's not overzealous to think that way. If you just look how he's performing, this offense is putting up high numbers. He just looks like he has that moxie. I said it earlier in the show. He just seems more mature to what people compare him to, Cam Newton. It's just obviously him. I think it was just something that was right in front of our face the whole time, and it's really going good.
And I think the best is Patrick Mahomes because he has 0 interceptions. And if you think about it,
I love how you call him Mahomes.
My homie Patrick over here has 0 Super Bowl losses. Tom Brady has 2. Let's just remember that. No, I'm just kidding, Taylor. I would never try to Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I think we've wasted enough of your time already. So please be sure to buy all our products and merchandise. Please be sure to follow us on Twitter at TFL Sports Talk, and be sure to check out our website, thefirstlinepodcast.wordpress.com. And we'll see you next time as we talk about more things sports. I think we had a good show. Any last thoughts, gentlemen?
Well, right now, I think the big thing for me is seeing where this Gordon Hayward injury goes. They're saying 4 to 5 months. Hope that's true. So go Celtics. Still looked great last night. Caps could be better, so go Caps moving forward. Can't wait for Temple basketball season. Excited for that.
Yeah, I can't wait for Temple basketball season. The Flyers beat the Washington Capitals 8-2.
That they did. Still early.
The Philadelphia Eagles are 5-1. The Philadelphia 76ers, Joel Embiid has not got hurt yet, so that's a win. Everything's just looking great. The Phillies are going to be good next year, hopefully. So I'm loving life. I hope you are too. Be back with us next time.
Love life, ladies and gentlemen. See you then.